Right, hi everyone. So, in my last session, now last few weeks, only one or two people are joining. So, I completed authorization code flow completely and was about to start with implicit. So, do you have any question on authorization code flow? And were you able to review the videos before?
I was able to review all the videos. I don't think I fully completely grasp like the codes that you were generating, putting in all the terms of like I understand the terms, the entity, client ID, and um, uh, the query, the mode, response mode, the response type, all that stuff I understand, but I don't know if I will be able to do it like myself, how you were. On the spot, okay, this one goes first and this one we have to do, and then this is where you like, it seemed a lot. Maybe they will just come
Okay.
with time and experience.
Okay, but let's say that given the session, like whatever you have reviewed through the video, what was the portion you couldn't grasp fully so that I can explain you that before moving to a new topic? Because the next three flows are interrelated. So,
Okay,
uh,
so when I put in all of that information, all the information we had to on Postman, it was giving me a code, error code, and I wasn't able to figure that out. Can I show you my screen?
yeah, sure. And there is a step before the postman. So I hope you did that as well, right?
Yeah, I did all the them.
Mhm. Sure.
Okay.
You can share your screen and like walk me through end to end so that I can check your understanding and if anything is missing or
Okay.
not correct, I can help you there.
Yeah, sure. So where's my developer? Okay, I was trying to actually integrate a AWS app over here, but okay, there it is. So I went to applications and I had I integrated the app demo OIDC, and I put in all the information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everything seemed fine over here. And when I went to the Postman app, I clicked on this, get access token with code. Um, then in authorization, I put in that same client ID that was uh, right here,
Mm-hmm.
client ID right here, and then I put in the secret, and in I didn't do anything in headers, I think, and then in over here in localhost, I put in this right here, redirect URI, and this code, I was trying to generate it. So over here, I did what you told us to do. And this was the first one I worked on, which was giving that same error. And when
One quick minute here. Okay, go ahead.
and then if I go to, if I actually paste this, it takes me, it works fine. And then I put in this code right here, up to here in the Postman app. I mean, this code right here. And then when I press send, then I get this code. Sorry, this error summary thing.
Authorization, grant type, authorization. Can you click on header? Okay. Oh, where is your HTTPS before dev? You haven't specified whether you're making a call to HTTP or HTTPS. So in your URL, you see after the post, no, go. If you go
Oh,
back
sorry,
to
sorry,
Postman,
sorry. Mm-hmm.
you see you have typed dev hyphen 05330617.
Oh, right
Yeah,
here,
you have to
yeah.
include. Yeah, you have to include HTTPS colon slash slash. No, it's colon.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
now try listening. No, the code has expired, so retry, regenerate the code.
So I have to do the whole process again to get the code?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, I should be able to do that then. Should I put this code in? Because I just
No, that's the same. That's the same code you put in to
okay,
the
okay. All right.
Postman right now, right?
I was trying to be lazy about it. Okay. All right, so oh, sorry. Over here. Okay, so first thing I do, I'm just trying to put this on the side so I can have of course it's gonna take its time. Okay. All right, so first is this. I'm gonna erase this because this was I have to put HTTPS in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And then so I have to actually get it from here. I can do this on my own time if you want to start a new topic. I understand the problem now.
So the remaining flows will depend upon this only, right? So it's just a minimization of this flow.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't gone through or if you have questions on this flow, then the other flows would still you'll have a question. So let's clear this out.
Okay, okay. All right. So there should be no spaces, right?
Yeah.
And then
Where are you typing?
sorry, I didn't see. Okay.
And why are you retyping this? Yeah, that's the first question.
I'll just copy paste it.
So, okay.
Copy paste
If
up to
you
here.
if you have done this, like generated this code again and again, you would see that nothing changes in this URL, right? Everything remains as it is.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
It's a static URL, right? So you do not need to retype it again. You can just
Yeah.
copy and paste and use this URL 100 times as well, and it should be able to generate a code for you.
Yeah, that's what I was trying
Now,
to do. Okay.
the only variable thing is the code. So once the code has changed, you need to update that code in your Postman and make a call again.
Okay. Yeah. So
Now it says unsupported response type. So check the value of your response type. What have you typed and copied? What is the value of response type here? Response
code.
type.
It's code.
Response underscore type is code. Response mode is query. Hold on. Okay. Now expand that error once. Supported. Did you create a custom authorization server? No, right?
Yeah, this is supposed to be custom.
No, this is a custom OIDC, but did you create a custom authorization server? If you click on the menu and go to security API, using the default, right?
Yeah.
And can you go back to your notepad where you have that URL? You have default here as well, right? What to default V1 authorize? Yeah, let me see. 05330617. That's correct. Okta.com. This is your client ID. Response type is code. Response mode is query. Direct URL is this. Callback, okay. State is this. Nonce is this. And scope equals to open ID. Can you go to this app with this client ID? 000A7.
This one.
Yeah, if you scroll down,
Scroll down.
the original code is selected. Copy and paste again. Let's
What
see.
part? The client ID?
No, the entire URL.
Oh.
Hold on. Go back to your URL. Have you given an enter after the ampersand? Or is there a space?
Oh, there's
Can you click on the response
yes.
tab? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There
So
we go.
now I got the code. You can copy and paste this code in your Postman. Right. You remove that enter. Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right.
Now you got the token, right?
Yeah.
So again, I had one video session on the token as well. How do you see the content of this token? So was that clear as well?
Yes, I went through that. It was that website jwt.io, and then it breaks down to header, payload, and signature, and it shows the key and the values, and yeah, it breaks down all the tokens.
And what are the different types of token do we have?
The header, payload, and signature.
No, that is different parts of a token. I'm
Oh,
saying what are
okay.
the different types of token we have?
Uh, I don't have that memorized by head from my head, my brain.
Yeah. So we discuss about mainly about two different types of token. One is the ID token and the other
Oh,
was the
true.
access token.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
Um, what understanding do you have on those two types?
I don't remember.
So CID token is like a proof of authentication. It's like you have authenticated, and that's why you have got a token. So it proves who you are and how was the authentication taken care. Now there is another set of token called access token, which is like what can you access in that specific application or what can you do with that specific token. So it's fine that I know who you are. I understand you have authenticated, but your authorization is done using another set of token called access token, right? And that's where we have these two different types of token in place. There is one more token called as refresh token, which is generated along with access token, and it is used to create a new access token whenever your previous access token expires. So if you have seen the payload part of the token, you would see there is a claim called EXP, which stands for expiry, right? And there's a claim called IAT, which is issued at. So there is a gap of 1 hour between issued and expiry. That means the token is only valid for 1 hour by default. We can change those configuration, but it's by default, it's only valid for 1 hour. So after 1 hour, your token expires. And there can be two things. One, user gets logged out as soon as the token expires because app would not let the user access the app since there is no further authorization available. So app might redirect you to Okta to authenticate once again, which is not a good experience because every 1 hour then user would be thrown out of the app. So what apps does is they store this refresh token, and whenever they see the access token is expired, they make a call to Okta from the backend and they get a new access token generated for the user. And so for user, there is no break in the service. They continue to use the service uninterrupted, but the token definitely expired and it got renewed based on this refresh token asynchronously by the application.
So you're saying that access token is basically every other information that the website will need or that URL will need besides who I really am, because that's ID token.
Correct. So access token basically only tells what can you do in this specific system.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, an ID token just says who you are, right? So an app needs both. For authentication, we only need to know who you are, right? But in order to make decisions, what you can do within this app, we need an access. Is that correct?
Yes, I got it.
Now, if you share your screen again, because you already have that in Notepad. Okay. Can you copy that URL and just make one duplicate of it so that you have a copy of this URL and we can modify the other?
Like paste it right here or on?
Yeah, yeah, you can paste it here itself. Okay, so now in this URL, you have been using the response type. Let's focus on the response type. What is this response type?
Um, uh, it we're asking that it generates a code. So, um, yeah, we ask Okta to tell us what kind of response to give back, and then we're telling Okta, or yeah, in this case, it would be Okta that we would want a code back.
Okay. Yeah, you're correct. So now, so this is one flow which we have covered, which is called authorization code flow. So what it basically does is we want the user's authorization to be presented to us in a code format, and we will then use that code to get our token later on from the token endpoint, which we have done using Postman, right? Now in a different flow of OIDC, which is called as implicit,
Yeah.
we will have the authorization given by the from the user to the Okta as well as token on the same call. So like we are merging the two functionalities together. Earlier we had this separated, so we had to make one call, get a code, then make another call, get a token, right? So we are merging both the functionalities together, and we would just make one call and get the token. You don't need to make two different calls, right? That's where the name implicit stands, right? So it is merging the functionalities of two different endpoints at once. And we would request Okta and get a token directly instead of getting a code first and exchanging that for a token. So in this URL which you have, definitely we need to change the response type. We don't need a code anymore. So there are certain values which you can put as a response type for implicit. One is token. So when you need an access token in return, you will put response type equals to token. If you only need ID token in return, you can put ID underscore token as response type. If you need both, then you can put token space ID underscore token. So all the three possibilities work similarly. So if we just request for token, that means it's an access token. If we request for ID underscore token, that means it's only ID token. And if we request for token space ID underscore token, that means we would be getting both ID token and access token. So let's go with token first. So you can change the response type equals to code with token.
Okay, so you want me to write token first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But everything else would stay the same.
No.
Okay.
Now we have been getting this code back as a query, right? And what is a query? So I have told you query is like a way of presenting the data in the URL itself after the question mark, right? There's a key value pair after the question mark that is called as a query string.
Right.
Excuse me. But for implicit, we would get the data not after a question mark, but after a hash. That is called as a fragment. So you will see that it will have the redirect URL of the application. Then after the URL ends, there will be a hash similar to how you had a question mark. And then you will have key value pair like access token and all of this, right? So that hash format is called as fragments. The question mark format is called as query, right? So for implicit, we get the value as fragment. So we need to change response mode equals to query to fragment.
Okay. So two meaning equal.
Yeah.
So like that.
No, you have to remove the query.
Oh yeah.
Response mode equals to fragment. That's it.
Okay, and then you have to change authorize over
Fragment
to
is ENT. Yeah.
do we have to
Redirect
this?
URI is again will remain the same. The idea of redirect URI is the same. That's the endpoint where you will get your token return from Okta.
Do I have to change this question mark into a hash?
No, when we are requesting, Okta does not support hash. Okay.
I see.
So Okta will still accept this as a query string. Your application would accept it as a hash. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So because it's
State and nonce, every other parameter will remain the same. Can you copy and paste this in the browser now? Yeah, before you do that, can you go back to Okta? So we need to tell the application that we want to use implicit, right? Currently, if you scroll down here in the app, and if you see the grant type, which is enabled, it's only authorization code, which is checked. A little bit of, yeah, see here in the grant type, you can only see authorization code being checked, right? So we have to check implicit also, implicit, and allow access token. Yeah, and you can save. So we are now instructing the app that it can support both authorization code and implicit. It's up to the app which one they want to request. So earlier we requested for authorization code. Now we are learning how to do the implicit flow. So we'll be requesting for implicit token. So now if we go and copy and paste from your notepad or Word into the browser, this should work. Do you see in the, can you copy the entire URL and put that in the WordPad? Just do Control A. It will select all and then copy Control C. And paste that in your WordPad using Control V. Okay. So the first part, if you see before the hash, is your redirect URI, which is localhost 8080 authorization code callback, right? Till there, it's your redirect URI. That's where you wanted to get the token back. And after that, you redirect URI, you see there is a hash, and that's where the access token begins. So it says after the hash, access token equals to, and that's where it starts your access token. We have only got access token. The reason being that's the only thing which we requested in response type. So if you now go ahead and change the response type to ID underscore token and make a call again,
Sorry, where is response type? Can't see.
no, this is the response already received from Okta. I'm asking you to make the
Yeah.
changes in the above URL.
Okay. So change it to what?
ID underscore token. ID underscore token. So this is not going to return an access token, but only going to return an ID token.
Okay, and the rest fragment all stays the same, right?
Yeah, correct. Again, now if you copy and paste this, you got it in the WordPad, you'll see everything looks similar. It's just that instead of access token, you have ID token. Is it, or is it
We
not?
don't we don't have this last part.
Yeah, correct. You will not have this last pass because you don't have an access token. That's only, see, scope. What is a scope?
Scope is when like it's basically it provides basic information about users or like their name and stuff, or it's also known as subject, right? And they have different
Okay.
they have 5 different types. Basic profile, I think it was address, email, phone number.
Okay. So what you are referring to is just one part of the scope. So scope means any resource you want to access or any access. Is scope is not an information. Scope is like granular permission. Okay.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So when I want to access your information, like your name, date of birth, whatever, right? That is a resource for you. And I want to access a resource. So the scope, when we request for a specific scope, it gives us that permission to access those information. All right. And again, as we have known so far, the only way we can control the access is using the access token. ID token is just a representation that you have authenticated. And that's why when you request only for ID token, you don't see these other parameters being returned because those are not part of an ID token. Those are always part of an access token.
I have
So
a
the scope,
question.
mhm.
Sorry. So when would we actually need a scope instead of using all the attributes that we try to implement in Okta using AD and different apps and we for each user? Instead of doing that, why would we need to do scope?
No, you would still need to do both. I have never said it's one is a replacement of other.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so
So
why
yeah,
would we
I'll
need to
tell
do
you.
it in a HTTP, like in a URL instead of just doing it inside the website instead itself?
Yes. So you have to configure the user attributes within the Okta itself, right? That's not going anywhere. That's remain as it is. Now, how would you tell what information to include in the token? There can be two possible outcomes. One, either Okta includes all the information by default in the token, or it can only include the selective information in the token, right? Now, including all the information is not a good practice, security practice. So no identity provider or no authorization server does that. So you have to tell Okta what information from your user profile, which Okta has. Okta may have 50 attributes about you, but it's not going to include that 50 attributes in the token. So you have to instruct Okta out of those 50 attributes, what attributes to be included in the token, and that is through the scope. So
I
you
see.
are saying if you say OpenID, that means you only want to include the username of the user. If you say profile, that means you want to include first name, last name, time zone the user is in, and so on, right? So you are including these different attributes from user profile, and you are defining what attributes to be included in the token based on the scope.
And will it use the scope of a person who's trying to access it in himself, or for that user? For example, like me as an administrator will be making like these generating these codes, or making for different users. I'll be making different profiles, right? So now all of this information in scope, would that be of me because I'm trying to do it for them, or will it be of the user?
So all of these calls will be made by the users themselves.
Okay.
You will never make a call on behalf of any user.
Okay.
Okay. So currently you have been making a call, but you have not been making a call on behalf of other users. You have been making a call for yourself. So you have to consider yourself as a user. So all of these tokens which had generated and it's there in the WordPad, it's against your user. It's not against other users whom you have created as an admin. It's against your own user account.
Okay.
So um, every time the user itself has to make this request. Now, definitely user is not going to know this technical information to create this kind of URL. So app will create this URL for the user and will put that on the browser automatically and make the request. So when user is present on the browser and user would authenticate using their username and password in Okta, it's their information which is getting picked up.
And we can probably just help them, like guide them through it instead of doing it for them if they ever run
No,
into it.
we don't have to do anything, right? So for them, they would just go to the app, and app is printing this URL on its own, and app is sending the user to Okta, right? So it's
Okay.
how we have been doing this Salesforce single sign-on, right? You go to
Yeah.
Salesforce. We never create the SAML request yourself. You just go to Salesforce, and Salesforce create the SAML request for you, right? Yes, no, maybe.
Right. Right. Yes.
This is similar. So this request, authorization request, will be made by the application, not an individual user. The application would make this request. The user present on that computer would would be logging into Okta, and their information will be picked up.
Got it.
So, given that now you have completed two flows, what is the difference you have observed so far in both authorization code flow and implicit?
Um, the authorization code flow. So this one and this one,
Yeah.
these two. So in this,
No, these two are both implicit flow.
so
I'm
between,
talking about how you generated and code earlier and then got a token and how we did today using it in one shot call. What are the differences you have observed?
so I mean, in this itself, we're gonna have to obviously add ID token or access
Mm.
token, right? And if we want to do both, then token space ID underscore token. Um, and then besides that, it's not going to be uh, what we had before, which was query. It's going to be a fragment. So those are the two main differences. And then when it generates the code, it's going to have a hashtag, and the token is a lot longer than well, we don't have a token here. But yeah.
Okay. But these are not the main differences that you pointed out.
Oh, also our our dev account is not there. Just the local host, the return uh
It's not there in authorization code also.
Sorry?
Even in authorization code, when you get the code as a response, you don't see your dev URL. Why would you see your dev URL?
Okay,
The
okay.
code or the token would be returned always on the redirect URI. It would never have Okta URL there.
Well, when we return, when this returns back, we have 3 parts. I'm assuming these doesn't have those 3 parts.
It has.
Yeah.
Okay, can you explain both the flows one by one? How the end-to-end process?
The end-to-end part. Okay. So for the first one, where the application is sending an authorization request, right? And then Okta will generate an authorization code of finding out who that user is, if that to make sure that user is the same one. Application will send that code back to Okta, and then Okta will generate tokens, and that's how the user can access the application.
Okay. And how about the second flow?
I'm assuming it's the same thing, but instead of using instead of using a code as a response, you ask for you're only asking for the ID token, and you're only asking for the access token. You're not asking for just, you know, a general like query, or like you're not asking for an entire response back.
But we are also getting the token in the previous flow also, right?
I mean, you have to get token to access the application, yeah. But in this, you're not.
So what are we not getting here in this? And what were we getting in the previous? Token is common in both. So token is not a point of debate here. What information is extra and what information is less here?
I know when you tell me, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, obviously, but I cannot think of it right now.
Okay.
Don't know.
So that's where I will wrap up my session today, but I'll explain. So the previous flow was a two-step flow, right? You had to get a code first, and then that code was like a information for exchange. Without that code, you cannot get a token. So you get a code, you exchange that code, and you get a token. But in the second flow, you never get a code. You don't need to exchange any code to get a token. You request, you get a token.
Oh, I
In
see.
the previous flow, the token was the second part. The first part, you had to get a code. And then once you have the code, then you get a token. So we are removing one step here. Instead of having a two-step flow, we are having a single step. Token
So
is same. Whatever token you get in the previous flow, the same kind of token you get here, right? It is not restricting you from getting the same type of tokens. The scope, everything will remain the same. It's just that how you're getting this token, you're getting it in one flow, a one step, then the two steps. And secondly, in the previous one, you are never getting a token in the URL. You are getting a code in the URL, but the token was never in the URL. If you go to the Postman, you can see in the URL there were no tokens, but here the token is in the URL. We never use a Postman for the second flow.
you see. Yeah, I would have never guessed that. So why would anyone go through the whole code instead of just doing ID token and access token? I guess some websites ask for it.
No, it's not that. It's based on the security. So if you request for information and I just give it to you straightforward, and then if you request for some information and I validate you before giving you out the information, which one is more secure,
The second one.
right? So that's why when you have a code and then exchange the code for a token, that's kind of a more secure because you are validating the, that whatever redirect URI application is requesting, that is valid. There is no mishap going in between, right, or anything. So that is more secure. So when you are using when you're creating any application which will be used on a public internet, you would always like to go with authorization code flow. But when you're creating an application which will be within your internal network, nobody from outside can access it. Only when I am on your computer or within your network connected to your Wi-Fi, I can only access it. If I go to my Wi-Fi, I cannot access it. It's like not like Gmail, I can access it from anywhere, right? So in that case, it is called as confidential client, and it is fine to get the token in one step because that point of time security is not a concern because nobody from outside can access it. Only insiders can access it. So security is already dealt.
I see. Okay.
So it's like when you go out on a vacation, right? You lock your main door of the house with lock key. I'm not sure the infrastructure there at the US, but when you are within the house, you will not have that kind of like safeguard security on the primary door. So that's the whole thing. So if you are within the network, you're creating an application which will always be within the network. It will never expose to the internet. We don't need to worry about the security because we have made sure that nobody from outside can access it.
Got it.
When I say we don't need to worry about security, it doesn't mean 100%. It gives
Yeah.
us less friction.
Yeah.
All right, so you have to review the previous videos a bit thoroughly and
Yeah.
still see a few places missing. So, and also this video of today and compare, find out more differences and let me know.
Yeah. I found SAML a lot easier than OIDC.
Uh, Correct. And that's why SAML is used and will be used 95% times of your day-to-day job. OIDC would be very rare, but it is if you are going into the opposite side of the IAM, which is the customer-facing world, then you will see SAML will not be used at all, and OIDC is the only thing which will be used.
I see.
So
Yeah,
you
I'm
need to
gonna have
know
to go
both.
through. Yeah, I have to go through everything again. I took notes and stuff, but I think I'm gonna have to take I don't know, listen to the classes and maybe do some Google research.
So, all right. So that was all for today. Tomorrow, I would uh, conclude the YDC part by covering the client credentials and the resource owner password credentials, the two remaining flows, and we'll move to a new topic.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thanks, Hira, for joining. Thanks, Asad.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you.
You too.